Hello everyone, my name is Ferds and narito ako sa isang tahanan ni Steve at kami po ay mag-uusap tungkol sa mga bagay, yung mga observation natin na makikita sa ating kapaligiran. We are going to discuss things about the increasing catastrophes or things that happening in our surroundings. So I have here Steve. So Steve,
thank you.
How are you?
I am doing okay lang.
Okay lang. So,
sige, ikaw.
Mabuti
Kumusta?
naman. Mabuti naman.
Kumusta?
Ayos lang. So, you know how to
Ano?
speak Tagalog?
Oo. Asawa ikaw?
Alright.
Wala
pa.
Talaga? Sigurado ka ba? Wala asawa?
Wala asawa.
Wala asawa? Guwapo! Bakit?
Bakit? Wala. So, I'm waiting for a woman from God. Maybe that's my reason.
Amen.
So
what's the topic today?
So our topic is about the increasing calamities or catastrophes happening in our surrounding, not particularly here in the Philippines, but also around the world. So what can you say about this increasing calamities?
You know, I saw a graph that was done by the analytics departments of different governments. They got together and collaborated and put together a graph of the increased natural disasters that are going on around the world. Now, I'm holding this because my father wrote this before I was born, and he wrote this way back 50 years ago or more.
Is that a map?
Well, no, it's a little tract. He used to pass this out. If anyone ever saw this, he used to pass this out. What's going to happen next tract? I'm going to read just a little bit here. It says, "Dear friends, yes, things are in a mess. There's no doubt about it, and they are getting worse. Sure, we had World War I, we had World War II, and we had the great 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, but they were far apart. There was one thing or two things. Now it's like 100 things happening all at the same time in countries, earthquakes, tidal waves or tsunamis, hurricanes, typhoons we call them here. And then when one stops, there's another one on its way.
Okay.
And it's just bam, bam. I mean, we just had this last week, the biggest, worst floods in the island of Biliran that has ever been experienced. I have video footage.
That's in Visayas, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And I have video footage, and I would like to, in the future, if we have a camera person that can, put the camera back and forth. We have a big screen here. We can actually show some of that stuff. If we just need staff here in the Philippines. I do these videos by myself,
So what comes into your mind about these things that happening around? Are you afraid, or this is alarming, or this is
It's not fearful. Recently, 17-year-old boy jumped off the building over here and killed himself. I got there just right after he jumped, and he was already, obviously unconscious, but probably dead. I mean, nobody even called an ambulance because we're talking hundreds of feet, 30 or 40 stories. But it got me thinking, people are so scared. They're killing themselves. They're depressed and they're afraid. But for me, I am so excited. Because, because Matthew 25, and throughout the Gospels, especially Matthew 25, it talks about all the things that are going to be happening before Jesus comes. Increased earthquakes, increased natural calamities.
Yeah.
That's a sign of Jesus coming. And when these things are speeding up and there's more and more of them, and increased technology, things that, I mean, I think about just a few years ago, when I'm watching video footage that I'm actually copying and putting up online, just from a few years, I'm not talking 10 years, I'm not even talking 5, I'm talking less than 5 years, the megapixel has gotten so good, and the ability to get these pictures and these messages, the gospel, around the world is like lightning speed. And the barrier, the countries are trying to create a barrier like China to keep this information to come in, but it's going in anyway.
Wow.
The internet is allowing it. They're trying to, with strict Facebook and things like that. And obviously, what's interesting to me is, and I am not a fan of television. I'm not a fan of a lot of these gadgets. I believe they're inventions of the devil, really.
Oh,
but
really?
what's interesting, I mean, obviously God is the author and finisher of our life and our faith and everything, and He is the creator of science and everything, but Satan knows how to manipulate and use it. And so what's interesting to me is that God is taking this science, which the devil is using to destroy people's lives, because by beholding we become changed, and television is just polluting the minds of people around the world, but it's also being used for the gospel, to get the gospel out. And that's what's exciting to me, is that I believe that when the gospel goes to all the world, then Jesus comes. When calamities start happening, we know that it's near. We need to tell the people, and we need to be ready.
So for you, since you're reading the Bible, you are prepared for these things. You are not afraid.
Am I prepared?
Are you?
Well, I think about it this way. When I think about myself, you know, steps to Christ is the closer we become to Christ, the closer we come to Christ, the more faulty we look in our own eyes. I look at myself and I see my faults, and I don't feel like, I know I'm not what I should be, and I don't feel like I'm ready. But I know that we need to hold on to the faith that we have in Christ, and we're not going to, as we become like Christ, we're not going to suddenly find, yeah, I'm like Christ now. We're not going to, it's righteousness by faith. We have faith that Jesus is there for us. He's giving us the power to stop sinning. We're growing spiritually. Our characters are being developed. This is what I think in my mind over and over. It goes in a loop. The easy way out would be just to die for Jesus, just to be a martyr. I mean, that would be the easy way out. But I mean, and I'm willing. And so I'm not afraid of that. As far as a natural disaster, I've been pretty close. I went through a few, and I just barely missed Tacloban, Yolanda, Cayenne. Got there afterwards with the bodies and stuff out, and I realized how close that came to me because I was living there just before. And obviously there's a healthy fear in humans from stuff like that. I mean, perfect love casts out fear. I shouldn't be afraid of these natural disasters affecting me. But obviously, I mean, I have to be honest. If there was an earthquake right now and the building's shaking and falling on me, and I see a tidal wave coming towards me, naturally there's going to be some adrenaline running, and I'm going to try to climb a tree, and I'm going to try to run.
That's true.
But when that time comes, you know, I'm not going to be afraid of that coming. I'm going to trust the Lord, and when it comes, I just pray that I'll be ready, and every day I'm working on my relationship with Christ.
Okay, I have a question, because a lot of people thinking that God is a God of love, and why these things happening?
You know,
happening in our
that
life?
happens to be a major topic here in Asia, and you know, and especially in the Philippines, because there's a lot of Catholics here, and we love Catholics, don't we? And they're just beautiful people, and they believe in Jesus Christ, so they're known around the world as Christians, as a Christian country, a Christ-centered country. But there seems to be what I believe, a difference between my understanding of Jesus and God the Father and their understanding of Jesus and God the Father. I know that this is going to be watched by Filipinos and stuff, so I'm talking extremely fast.
It's okay.
Can you follow me?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
but
I can.
God isn't out there to punish and to get even with us. He loves us. He died for us. I'm talking about Jesus died for us. He's God also, right? God the Son. His Father gave up him. He gave up himself. Jesus did. There was such a sacrifice on the part of heaven to save us and to love us and to woo us into loving him back, not through fear, but through, I mean, if you apply these techniques or these principles to human realm, if someone says, now you're going to love me or I'm going to beat you, you know, you might act like you love them, but you're not going to really be loving them. You're going to be afraid of them. And that brings up on a whole nother subject, because we're supposed to fear God and give glory to him, but that's a different kind of fear. There's different, the word fear in the Bible referred to in different places in different ways. So it's a different kind of a fear than the one there where the Bible says, "Perfect love casts out fear," but love does not. But God does not give us the spirit of fear, but of love, joy, and peace, and a sound mind. And also, where there is no fear and love. You know, those verses. That's a different fear. And there's one that says we are to fear God or fear the Lord.
But how will you explain to a person who is not have faith like of yours, to explain to them that still God is a God of love despite of all these disasters that we are encountering or experience, especially here in the Philippines or in some other countries?
I'm sorry, I forgot to turn off the noisy gadgets. I forget to do that. So it's noisy in the beginning, but that's okay. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
We can redo or...
No, that's wonderful. It's fine.
That's wonderful, so...
Okay, so ask the question again.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. I want to speak slower so we can really have a clear understanding.
Sure.
Hey, James, how are you doing? Hey, by the way, we need people to
interact.
We need some questions, please, and we need you to give some answers and some Bible verses or whatever here. So if you're able to and you're watching, please ask some questions and give us some interaction. We were passing out, this guy that's watching, he's over in Laguna. We were passing out all of his literature. In fact, I've been trying to ask him if his contact information is valid, because we've been passing out hundreds over here, and we're sending thousands to, I don't know if it's hundreds of thousands, but I think it's thousands down to the island, and we have his contact information. So James, if you can please let us know if that contact information is still valid. That way, if people contact you, it's nice that we can follow up with them and even invite you to do a health screening clinic. So anyway,
so going back to
your question.
So my question is, how are you going to explain to a person whose faith is not like yours, to explain them that God is still the God of love despite of all these things?
Well, the first thing that I immediately think of is that if the devil was not allowed to show his ugly face and be who he really is, we already know he's going to deceive the very elect, okay, through his deceptiveness.
Okay.
He appears as an angel of light. This is the way, walk ye in it, you know. People are going to be deceived by him. But this is what I've been looking into recently. God makes the rules.
What's
okay?
the rule?
There's all kinds of rules that God makes. And the devil has to follow those rules.
Like
the devil doesn't make up the rules. And one of the rules is the devil's ugly face and his truth of him, who he is, has to be seen, has to come out. He can't hide it all. In fact, he's revealing himself constantly. One of the videos that was sent to me recently, and I was asked to go to this country, and then several people in that country sent me this video, and I was horrified because a young lady who went to a Bible study, and I actually did some research and validated that video and where it came from and everything, and the woman was burned alive for going to a Bible study. I mean, how horrible is that? If that's the devil, that's not God, that's the devil who is doing that. And if people didn't see how horrible the devil was to kill innocent babies and just to do the horrible things that are going on in the world, the devil can create natural disasters. He can shake the earth. He can do these things. Of course, he has to have God's permission, but we're told that God is going to loosen the winds. He's going to allow these things to happen more and more and more, and that's the devil that's doing that. That's not God.
I understand that.
You understand? Okay.
I understand that God allows these things to happen. Sometimes this word allow makes confusion, or it confused a person, because like what is said earlier, that God is God of love, and why is it that he is allowing these bad things to happen to, especially to good people? What do you think?
Well, first thing that comes to my mind is it's hard for me to comprehend how much good happens to so many bad people. Did you ever think about that? I mean, there's some horrible characters out there, and yet you think, and I don't want to mention names, but think of some of the leaders of certain countries that are ruthless and control their populations and don't allow them to have freedoms and things like that. And yet those people have their health, their heartbeats, they have wealth, they have money, they have, you know, power, they have so much blessing and things to be thankful for. You know, one thing that I don't believe they have, and that is peace of mind and the ability to sleep and happiness. So when people say that, you know, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, first of all, the devil needs to be seen who he truly is, and God gives people freedom. See, freedom is something that God gave man in the beginning, Garden of Eden. If there wasn't the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that was a choice. If there wasn't something that was not supposed to be done, that wouldn't be a real choice. There was options, but there was no don'ts and no do's without the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So that tree was put in the garden purposely, giving people a choice of wrong or right, transgression of God's law. So it really was an act of love to say, you know, you can do this, but the wages of sin is death. And he told Eve that. So I always try to emphasize to people that God gives people choices, including the bad people who kill and do ruthless things to good people. So if there's bad things happening to good people, the devil is either involved, man is involved, the devil's, you know, motivating those men. There's all kinds of things involved. I mean, it could be a natural disaster or whatever. But also, you got to understand that death is not the end. Death is not this...
Why you say so? Can you explain further? Death is not the end, because some people don't understand that when we say it's not the end of everything.
It's, you know, it's a topic to be discussed during a whole program sometime, the state of the dead. But you know, truly,
just a glimpse.
Christians, Catholics alike, any of the religions out there don't believe that death is the end, except maybe some non-Christian, but basically Christians believe that's not the end. It's just a matter of does your soul die with your body, or does your soul go to heaven, and what is your soul, and some of those things. Death is not the end. The Bible is clear that we do have a chance to live with Jesus forever, eternal life, if we accept him as our personal Savior, of course. And so God in his mercy, he knows the beginning of your life, he knows the end of your life. And I keep telling people that I know that are suffering right now, they are suffering, but they may not be suffering as much as they would be if God was not allowing them to go through that. You know, when you work your arms in a gym, you're strengthening your muscle. God allows us to go through trials and difficulties to give us strength. And I thank him for that. When I go through a trial, I say, God loves me so much. Thank you so much for that trial, because I'm strengthening my character, my ability to withstand what's coming next. I say, thank you, Lord, because I remember when I was a kid going through some trials, and then as I got older going through those trials, and now I go through the trials, I smile, I praise the Lord, I know that it's that God's in control, I trust him. What I mean by God's in control, I don't mean he's up there with a remote control controlling everyone. He's giving people the freedom of choice, but he knows the beginning and the end. He's the author and the finisher of our faith. And sometimes he allows the devil to work his evil to where that person's life ends, but they're right with him, they're right with God, they're ready to die, and all they're going to do is just blink their eye, wake up, and they're on God's side. Not immediately, as we know the Bible doesn't teach that you don't just instantly go straight to heaven in your soul, but when Jesus comes, everyone will be woken and see him come. We know that. So it's like you're sleeping and you wake up and he's there. And you'll either say, lo, this is my God, I've been waiting for him, or you're going to cry for the rocks and mountains to fall on you. So, you know, I have heard that so much in this country, the Philippines. Why does such bad happen to good people? I don't necessarily think some of the stuff that they think is bad is really that bad. There is a sweet, beautiful young girl, several recently, who have died that were very close to me in this country. One just right out here. You know how much misery and pain she was going through alive? Her grandmother died of a heart attack. She didn't have anyone to care for her. She was handicapped. She was suffering terrible. She's not suffering now. When she opens her eyes, she'll see Jesus, and I believe that she will be right. Now, I don't know, you know, that's between her and God, but she was a young girl that had no use of her arms and legs and was totally dependent on people. And she, over and over again in front of us, we had worked with her, and she had given her heart to Jesus.
Yeah, I like the word you use, freedom, or freedom of choice, or the free will that God has given to each and every one of us. Because in every situation, in every difficult situation, I guess it involves our character. It's involved our attitude and how we respond to every situation. Like if you are going to come closer to God, or when things happen or bad things happen to you, you run away from God. But in your case, I like it because it seems that every difficulties in life, it brings you closer to God.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to go and encourage bad things and more trials that come to me and say, bring them on, you know. That's not that's not what I'm trying to do. But I can tell you, I pray, Lord, please spare me. And I think Jesus did that in the Garden of Gethsemane. Let this cup pass from me. He knew what was coming, and he was willing to do it. So I think we need to be willing, but definitely we need to pray that our flight be not in the winter. There are things that we're supposed to pray that God will, you know, and that's I believe that's a figurative of speech, because it could be winter here and summer there, you know. Depending on where you're at in the world. I'm trying to invite James here and there, Mr. James Kirtley, if anyone knows him. I don't know what happened to him.
We are on live streaming.
Yes, right here.
Okay, that's good. From where?
Well, he's my American friend, but he's here in the Philippines right now. And he says yes, then he could come on and speak with us a little bit here as well, right here. We could even put him on the big screen. I can cast it over there. But anyway, keep on going.
Okay, but my question is pain a message from God? Do you think so?
You know, that's a big subject. I'm not going to claim that I have the answer totally to that. I'm just going to give you my opinion as a human being. I'm going to try to set this somewhere here. I'm going to try to give you my opinion as a human being. You know, in the United States, there is a big push, even in Christian communities, for marijuana. It's been made legal in California and Hawaii and different places because it takes away the pain. The Bible talks about that God doesn't give us more pain than we can handle. You know, I had an experience with a tooth at the dentist where it was so painful, and I have a strong pain threshold, but it was so painful that I immediately blacked out. My body blacked out. I woke up, I had oxygen, and I didn't know what happened to me. And they refused me at that dentist office because I had gone unconscious. We find out that people that have car accidents, they go into shock, the pain, naturally the body produces anti-pain, you know, reactions, but then the pain comes back later. So there are high levels of pain that need to be dealt with in an emergency room setting or in a hospital or under professionals. So I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for that, but there is too much effort put on getting away from pain. I believe pain is a motivator, not only to change one's the emotional and mental, is to change their life, change what they're doing. That's
you know,
true. If you have your hand in the fire, get it out of the fire. If you say, well, my hand's hurting in the fire, well, I can, you know, give yourself a shot of heroin or something and, you know, some sort of a drug, you're not going to feel the pain. Well, you're going to end up losing your hand. Pain, God wouldn't have created pain if it wasn't something needed. So I don't want to just say pain is bad and try to escape and get away from pain, because it is the motivator for change, whether it's an emotional or physical. And so I don't like this. They say, well, what if someone's in pain? Well, maybe they should be in pain. Maybe they're not in pain enough because they're not changing. They're not changing their diet. They're not changing their lifestyle.
Correct.
And, you know, the problem with what's going on in the world today is they say, well, there's no hope, there's no cure, so you're going to die anyway, so why not die without being in pain?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and so they take away the hope. I believe with Jesus there's always hope. I believe that Jesus is our hope. And if we lose that, yeah, life can be pretty dismal. So I don't think we should ever lose hope in Jesus. And sometimes my wife and I discovered and experienced together some miracles happening at the last second. I mean, right at the last. Even past the last second, you think, okay, well, it's going to go up to this time. You're watching the clock, and then it can't go any farther because, you know, that's the end. But then after you think it's done, the miracle happens, and you just look, wow, that was impossible, but it happened. And so I found God works that way.
Yeah, that's true, because a lot of people are saying that once they experience this pain, and there are two reactions of it. The other one is that they come to Christ or come to God. More prayer, more prayer.
So many personal testimonies are about what pain and difficulty they went through, but it was the best thing. I got to tell you, we're at 27 minutes into this already, and we're supposed to be a 30-minute program.
Oh, sure.
We need to wrap it up and get to some questions about what can we do about these natural disasters. But I want to say, tell you a quick story.
Okay. Where
I had a flatbed trailer that was borrowed without asking for my permission. Basically, a friend of mine borrowed it, and a tire fell off, hit a motorcycle with a couple.
Okay.
The man lost his leg. The woman lost her entire face on the asphalt, on the pavement, and they contacted me because it was registered to me, and they were going after me. And I was a young kid. I was terrified about, you know, what to do. I didn't know what to do, and I was worried that there would be repercussions. They would go after me if they knew where I lived. But the insurance company took care of things, and they were in, of course, the hospital. His leg was amputated, things like that. And it was a total accident for my friend, and I signed a statement that I didn't even know he was using the trailer. It was it was against my permission. So everything worked out good, but I often was so worried and hurt and felt so bad for that couple. But my mother ran into a lady who had lost her face. She was deformed. And my mother was asking, how did that happen? And she said, well, my husband lost his leg. It was because a tire came off. And it was the best thing that ever happened to us. Our relationship was horrible, but we got so close, and we came to know Jesus, and it changed our life. And she was all excited about telling my mother. My mother told me about it, and I said, Mom, it's this town? That's the town where it happened? It has to be the same people. Now, I haven't even gone to reach out to them and talk to them. I'd like to do a personal interview. But that's just one of thousands of stories similar to that, where people were either born without, like Nick Vujkovic, without arms and legs, or they had a horrible thing happen, and God worked through that wrong. All things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to His purpose. So, you know, I want to encourage everyone out there, don't wait till there's a catastrophe, like a calamity of some sort, a natural disaster, or just something in your own life to put your dependence and your faith on God. Do it now. You know, we can love the Lord with all our heart, and we can have a wonderful, happy, healthy life in Jesus. And go through, because that is, in the end, when God's people are going right through, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire, and they're smiling. You know, people are going to look at those people. How are they smiling? Is it because they know that if they die, they're going to wake up and say, "Lo, this is our God. I've been waiting for him." They know that God could make it so that they aren't going to die. They know that God can take away the pain. There are stories in which people that were martyred, burnt at the stake, they said, "Can you motion to me and do a sign if there's pain or not?" And the motion would come back that they don't feel the pain. There's no pain. So we know from stories that these martyrs, Jesus took away the pain of the fire. And they just went to sleep and didn't even feel it. So God in his mercy, we think, why did this bad thing happen to this good person? There is such a bigger picture that we don't know about.
Yes, true.
You know, sometimes in my own life, there's people that are close to me, I won't mention names, and they're going through horribly painful things. And I'm praising God. I feel the pain of the loved one, but I'm praising God because I know he's working a work in their lives and in their heart.
So do you believe that faith plays a vital role in this situation? Our faith.
I don't think, I know that it is the faith that God plants in our hearts that grows through the experiences that we go through in life, that is what is needed so much in each person's life. One of the questions that I wanted to come up is this: what can we do during these natural disasters to reach the masses with God's love and with the gospel? We have in our church ADRA, Adventist Disaster Relief agencies, but you know, they're just so small, they can only do so much, and
that's only for physical needs. That's. But how about you're saying that? How can we reach
what can we do? Because the Bible in Matthew 25, it talks about these natural disasters, but it also talks about that what we do for the least of these, that we do for Jesus. It talks about feeding. It talks about clothing. It talks about housing. So what can we do? Well, like that story with the young boy throwing starfish in the sea. You've heard it many times. And he's throwing them, he's picking up, and you know, he passes a couple and they're laughing. You're not going to be able to throw them all in. You're not making any difference. And he just looks at him and he picks up a starfish and he threw it and he says, "Well, I just did for that one." We need to focus on that. What if that one person was you? Would you be happy if someone reached out to help?
That's the usual thing that we do during calamities or disasters happening in our country.
So I had done a video, which is previous to this, on my Kolapa YouTube channel, about something I had come up with, and I'm not saying that I get the credit. God, I'm sure, gave thoughts and ideas to me. I prayed about some solutions to this problem of hunger. When there's a natural disaster, there's three basic things needed initially.
What are those?
For the body to live: air, breathe, water, hydration, and energy, calories, and food. And there's glycogen in there, and there's sugar, and there's different things the body needs, or it's going to die. You're going to be dead. So I like to list it in that order: air, water, and food, because you'll be dead sooner with only a short amount of time of air. So like 3 or 4 minutes with no air, you're dead. A few days without water, you're dead. But you can go a month starving to death, and it takes longer. So I like to start with air, water, food. So
how are we going to provide those things?
That's the challenge. And what I came up with when I was, and this is probably needs to be in another program, another interview, but I was at the airport that was demolished, and I saw this stainless steel tubing, and I thought, one of those is a 20-foot length, and I could see the wells. And I was thinking, if we could take the 4 basic food groups, which are fruits, grains, nuts, and vegetables. Nut being a coconut, for example, is a nut. A vegetable being like malunggay or moringa. Or a grain being rice. It could be, I like brown rice, or oats. And a fruit being, any kind of fruit basically that's dried. I like raisins or even dates. Those are high energy fruits and foods, superfoods basically. If you were to put those together and compress it in that tube, you could create these bars that could be used as meals. You see, during Yolanda, rice was sent in, but there was no water to cook it with. There was no fire. There was no wood. There was no roof. It was impossible. It was like dangling a carrot in front of a rabbit, where the rabbit's tied to a rope and he can't get to it. It was torture to a Filipino to say, here's rice, but you have no way to cook it or eat it. The rice is white, it's hard, it's a starch, it's very difficult to eat white, hard, uncooked rice.
So your in mind is that there would be, or there must be a 4-in-1.
There must be something that they can, when they get it, they can eat it.
Yeah. Just like food of astronaut.
Right. So they have, all these health companies have a little energy bar. They have these little teeny things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an actual food bar. And usually these products that are out there are too sweet. And you can only eat a little bit, and it's more in addition to what you're going to eat or a meal. But I mean a whole meal. So I designed a machine that can do, in one pressing hydraulically, 1 month's supply for one person, with an extra log in there that could last another additional month.
Really?
And that's not just little teeny bird meals. These are meals where the bar is big enough that when you drink 4 ounces of water, it swells and your stomach is full. And it's not too sweet either. And so 90 bars, 3 meals a day, is compressed into 20 feet. They're about 3 inches long each, approximately, something like that. A little bit variance there, but I calculated everything up. So that is the machine I made. I'm working on inventing another machine that's instead of hydraulic. Now that was done by hand, but electric, using a worm gear.
Means by water.
Hydraulic using oil.
Oil.
A hydraulic jack, a press.
Okay.
Where it compresses it. So I have a video that's being uploaded right now. It'll be up on that. And I'm retiring that machine. It's going into like my museum maybe or something.
Okay.
So the Kolapa Museum here in the Philippines, if there is one. It'll be put on display. It'll be the first prototype of something of that nature. There's not a lot of competition in this. I spent about 6 months hiring a man who is an expert in this sort of thing, researching it. In California. He's in the Marshall Islands now. He just turned 80. He's just young and healthy still at 80, traveling all over the world. But he spent 6 months with me there in California in the office trying to find a company who would actually make these bars for us.
Wow, I'm excited.
And we couldn't find a company, so there's not a lot of competition. So one of the things I'm trying to do in the Philippines is find a group of people or a person who is willing to put this together, and we'll start making them just as a starter, a prototype. I'm trying to make one where you just put the food in, you got to tumble the ingredients in a tumbler, it goes in, and then a worm gear sucks it in like a meat grinder, and then there's a spout, the same stainless steel size, and the longer you make it, the more friction, and so you got to have a strong enough motor to be able to force it through until it comes out in a bar, which then cuts it off in lengths. And you eat that. Fruits, grains, nuts, and vegetables. Has it all.
Okay, but refrigeration, it's not
You don't need to refrigerate it for years and years. It's so compressed, and then it goes into a plastic or a vacuum packet. So, I don't like plastics, but sometimes they're very convenient to keep things clean and everything. This is good for natural disasters, but I'm a sailor. I travel the world. I mean, I haven't yet traveled globally, but I've traveled in the Pacific. Sailing, and you need to have a certain amount of food. You got to calculate how many people, how much food you need. So that's a need for these bars, but also being a missionary, going out into the countries where you can't eat the food or it's not available. I've been in the province, there's nothing but cassava, which is starchy or it's poisonous if you eat it raw. You know, there's not a lot to choose from. Now the locals, they've adapted, they live on that. But you bring a foreigner, an American or any foreigner in to that environment, they can starve, they can get sick, they can get really, really ill by eating just white rice, fish, and
fish,
tapioca root or something. So it's a necessary. Now I made up batches of that. I would make up a batch and I would travel all over, never worry about food. I can't tell you how good it is to be able to travel and not worry about food. You don't have to worry about who's going to cook it, if you're going to cook it, where you're going to buy it, because you have it in your pack.
Wow.
And it's always there. And all you have to do is pull it out and eat it.
That's great.
And so, I mean, I've traveled with powders you put in water and you drink that and that gives you some energy and it has all the vitamins and minerals you need. I understand that, but there's something about the stomach being empty that's not a good feeling. So not only do you need to get the nutrition, but you need the fiber. You need that bulk to be in your stomach and you need it to fill your intestine. You need to have that feeling of being full. Otherwise, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's hard to deal with that.
So
we're running out of time here. We have 3 more minutes.
Okay.
Could you help wrap it up, Hans?
So thank you for the update information and Tagalog. So masaya ako kasi naintindihan ko.
Tell about the food bar in maybe 2-3 minutes.
So sabi niya rito na meron siyang invention na gagawin na isang pagkain na magagamit natin during disasters. Especially kung wala nga namang makain, walang mainom, walang pwedeng pang-initial na pwedeng makasurvive tayo. So ang sinasabi ni Steve ay gumagawa siya ng ganong klaseng pagkain na ito ay merong 4 na substances. Can you repeat those things? Fruits,
grains, nuts, and vegetables. Those are things that are found in nature. In Genesis 1:29, God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed." That's fruits. Later, leaves were given for the healing of the nations, and we're to eat leaves. I really believe malunggay is one of the leaves that is something God allowed. It wasn't initially made for food, but when sin happened, God said, "You're going to have to eat the bitter herbs, the leaves, but guess what? They're going to heal you."
Sure. Nice.
You know?
So,
but God is the one that heals. It's the obedience to Him. A lot of people think, well, is it the vitamins? God created the vitamins. He created your body. It's all about building materials and stuff, but truly, God does the healing, and we need to just trust Him. Do what He says.
How often, how soon you're going to produce these things para marami makabili?
I've already produced them. The main thing is I've gone to major international food expos and things at the World Trade Center, and I've spent a lot of time now working on this. So I'm hoping that these videos will get out. I'm going to do more and more of them to where I can run into the right people. I believe a man by the name of Ken Brailsford. Okay, he's a very, very successful man in the United States. He has a project that is starting in India with growing malunggay, or moringa they call it up there, and they ship it over to the U.S., and he's actually using that and making all kinds of products out of the malunggay, the seeds, the oil, the leaves, and everything. I prayed that I would meet him. I was sponsored to go back and meet him, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to meet him just before I flew here. My tickets were paid for and everything to fly to the state of Utah, and lo and behold, in a big building, I saw him. I approached him, and you know what he did?
Yeah, what?
Within 2 or 3 seconds, not minutes, of speaking to him and hearing what I had to say, and I actually put my hands like this on his hands. He's an older man. He's in his 70s. He reached into his pocket and he pulled out a wad of $100 bills with a rubber band and he handed it to me and he says, "Here, take this with you." And so I know and I believe and there was a seed that was planted and I held on to that for a long time. I didn't want to spend any of those, but you know, I don't want to be like the man talked about in the Bible that took the talent and he buried it in the sand. I want to use that wisely, so that's what I've been doing. I believe this man has the resources, the connections to make it happen globally. he started companies like Nature's Sunshine. He was the main guy that started that. Rexall and other companies, and now the Zija organization. Okay, Zija Nation. It's all over the world, and I believe that he's a major contact right now, and I'm following up talking with him. So
okay, so magandang balita yan mga kababayan.
Okay, God bless.
God bless.
45 minutes.